right, looks like we're live. What's going on, guys? Today we're going to talk about some time management issues as an iOS developer. I'm going to give a channel/mentoring coaching update, going to update you guys on my job hunt, what's going on there. And then we're going to dive into some Q&A. But first I want to talk to the people watching the replay since nobody's quite showed up yet. So for those watching the replay, I got a couple questions for you, and I also want to let you know, thanks to watcher Tyler Perkins, he recommended I do some timestamps for the questions I answer and the topics I talk to. So if you're watching the replay, check out the description. I'm going to be doing some timestamps to help you guys navigate through the live stream. Give me some time if you're watching the replay right after this goes up. Obviously, I need some time to do that, but check that out. And if you're watching the replay, and for the few of you that are already here, I have some questions for you. I'm going to ask these questions later in the live stream as more people get in. The questions are, what are your favorite series that I do? As you know from my channel, I do like iOS interview question series, I do Swift snippets, I do my vlog, I do just general talking into the camera, I do coding challenges. So I'm just curious what you guys think are some of your favorite series that I do. So if I get a lot of the same answer, I'll do more of those. Or vice versa, some of the series you don't like, I can take the feedback, and maybe I'll do less of those videos. So just let me know which videos you like. And then two, for those here and those on the replay, is how is this 9 a.m. time working for you? As you may know, I was doing, 9 a.m. Pacific time here in California. As you may know, it used to be 1 p.m. Pacific time in California, but to accommodate a lot of the audience over in India, that 1 p.m. Pacific time was like 1 a.m. their time, so I switched it to 9 a.m. The attendance has been about the same, so I'm kind of curious how that's working out for you guys. All right, let me say what's up to the people that have signed in. Yol, hey from Israel, what's going on, Yol? Mandan from India, thanks for showing up. So here's how the format works if you haven't done this yet. I'm going to kind of talk about a subject for 5-6 minutes, but keep asking questions throughout the live stream. In between kind of segments, I'm going to dive into the questions, do some quick Q&A, then get back to a segment, do some Q&A. So ask away. What's going on, Thomas? What's going on, Sanjay? Thanks for all the videos. I just started watching your videos the other day. Thank you. Appreciate it. Yeah, so I'm going to go ahead and dive into the topic real quick on what's up, Shankar? What's up, Arlison? All right, I guess stop saying what's up. I'm going to dive into the topic, and I'll catch up on these comments as we get done. So it's been 4 days since I put out a video on my channel, which for me, it feels like I'm neglecting a child. That's way too long. But let me tell you why, and it has to do with time management and how I didn't handle time management very well. So I'm on a tight deadline with the contract I'm currently working on. I have to deliver a build by Monday, so tomorrow. The first time the client's going to see the build of the app, and then so the whole app is due on the App Store by the end of July. So basically, the build I'm building, delivering to the client now, isn't just like, oh, here's one feature. It's the first version of like the complete app, and then over the next 2 weeks, we're going to go back and forth, testing, bug fixing, just overall polish on the app to get it ready for the App Store. So it's a pretty big delivery, pretty big deadline I have tomorrow. And where I'm going with the time management stuff is the whole week, earlier this week, I didn't really, if you saw in the vlog, remember I said I was kind of getting demotivated on this project. So I kept putting it off, kept procrastinating. And for the past 4 days, I've been doing pretty much nothing but working on this project, 8 to 10 hours a day. It's been grueling, it's been draining, and I recommend not doing that. It's kind of like, if you remember back in high school when you had this huge paper or huge project you had to do, and you just saved it all to the last weekend and crammed it all into that, it's pretty much what I did on this project. So definitely have better time management, but that is why there have been no videos the past 4 days. This is all I've been doing. I'll be back to the regular schedule starting Monday, starting next week, but definitely manage your time better. And like I said in the vlog, it's hard when you work from home. It's easy to get distracted, I say, when you work from home. Like, definitely check out my vlog. And let me actually recommend a podcast for you guys to listen to, Under the Radar. I recommended this in my other my podcast video. If you haven't seen that, it's one of my older videos about podcasts about iOS development. But their latest episode was all about working from home and the struggles of working from home. And I was like listening to that. It's only a half hour. And I was like, holy crap, this is like exactly what I'm feeling. It's perfect. So if you're wondering what it's like to be independent and working from home and a contractor, it's called Under the Radar. You can find it on iTunes, but you just listen to that episode. It's only 30 minutes, but highly recommended. Let me check my notes here. Yeah, so I also want to talk about that time management thing. So what I did to fix that, if you haven't seen the vlog yet, the latest one, go ahead and watch that. Why haven't you seen it? But it's all about how I went to this shared workspace called WeWork, and it's more like an office space. It's only a block away from my apartment, so it's super convenient. But that was a total shift in mindset. You know, getting dressed, going to an office, being around other people working, and I was just 10 times more productive than I was just sitting essentially in my bedroom because I live in a small studio apartment. So I did that this whole week. That went well. That really got me back on track. So if you're struggling with time management, you're working from home, it's a struggle, I would recommend trying to find a shared workspace. It has helped me out a ton. Don't get me wrong, it does cost money. But like I said, it cost me $550 a month in that shared workspace. But doing the math, that's 1 day's worth of work, and that covers the whole month. So I don't know. I think it's worth it. So that's kind of my spiel on time management. I was struggling with it. I backed myself in a corner with this project. I'm paying the price this weekend for it. You know, again, the past 4 days have been 10 hours a day. I'm exhausted. I'm taking tomorrow off, not doing any coding tomorrow because I'm dying. So don't put yourself in this position. You know, take care of it early. Don't get behind. All right, let me catch up on some questions before I move on to the next topic. Here. Arlson says, good morning. Greggy16D says, I like your series that reinforces the basics of Swift, loops, and if statements. Greggy, that's interesting because that's my beginner series. It's the one with the green bar. And I kind of gave up on that series because it got the very least amount of views. And not that I'm just going after views, but I'm looking at views to see what, you know, people are responding to and what people are liking. So that series has gotten deprioritized because it was one of the least viewed series, and I started shifting my focus onto other types of series. So it's very interesting you say that, and maybe I'll kind of get back to doing that now that I've gotten some feedback on it. Arlison says, hey Sean, working now in office. Why did you not buying into noise canceling headphones? You say why did I didn't buy them, or? Oh, I don't know, the office environment doesn't really bother me. I mean, I have my AirPods, those do fine. They're not noise canceling, obviously, but the music playing in keeps me going. So I've never actually had an issue. I know other people do, and noise canceling headphones are a very good idea for those that do have an issue with that, but I've never actually personally had that issue. Anish, hey Sean from Nepal, what's going on, Anish? How you doing? Alan Wicksted, can you recommend any companies or resources in California for foreign nationals, Irish, for getting jobs in the iOS or startup field? Is it necessary to do a boot camp, or are the example apps enough? It's not necessary to do the boot camp. Depends. If you have a computer science degree, you know that's good enough. If you don't, a boot camp is nice. But at the end of the day, it's can you do the job? And if you have one example app that's super basic, that might not prove that you can do the job. However, if you have 5 example apps that are like pretty in depth and can show off a lot of different skills, that might be enough. Like I said, really at the end of the day, it's not so much about your computer science degree or did you do a boot camp, it's can you do the job and prove it to us. So if you have those example apps, so look at that and that'll get you in the door, but then you got to go through the interview process where, you know, they're going to do a phone screen, you're going to do live coding on the phone, and then you're going to do a 5 to 6 hour interview in person, and that's when they're really going to judge you. So anything you do on the outside, like I said, whether it's the boot camp, the computer science degree, example apps, that's just what gets you in the door. Once you're in the door, you got to prove it in front of them. And then that's kind of up to you how you handle that. All right, let me catch up. Madan says, hey Sean, being a freelancer, how to manage multiple projects at the same time efficiently? That's tough. I only do one at a time. I mean, because I do my YouTube on the side, so I can't take on 2 contracts. But yeah, I don't really have advice for you on there, but I can empathize with you how hard that would be. Especially when you're dealing with tight deadlines on both. Yeah, if they're both 2 big contracts, because sometimes a contract can be like a small project where you can knock out pretty quickly. I'm not really talking about that. I'm talking about 2 like big time apps. Yes, sorry I don't have advice for you, but I know that that's hard to do, and I can't imagine. Olaf, hi. Is there any chance you could rewrite your 2015 post about where to start iOS learning? All right. So you checked out my blog. Yeah, that might be a good update because that is 2 years old now, and a lot of the stuff I recommend on there, like Treehouse and Udacity and all that stuff, like Swift had just come out when I wrote that article. So all these online courses have improved their Swift curriculum a lot because this is when Swift was like Swift 1.0. when I did the Udacity Nano degree, I was, I think, the second cohort to ever do it. So I'm sure they've improved it since I've done that. So that's a good idea. I may go back and do that. Dilip says, "Hi Sean, can you share steps? To learn iOS? Which have you done?" Dilip, I just did a video last week on how I became an iOS developer and what I did. Go ahead and check that out. Like I said, it's probably one of the most recent 5 videos that I just did. Hey, what's up, Ben? Good to see you again. Sanjay says, "How do you handle rejections from your on-site interviews?" That is the one thing I've gotten very, very good at over the course here. Because I don't consider, and I don't look at it as like failure when I get rejected, because the companies I'm applying to, the Facebooks, the Airbnbs, like these are the top companies in the world that are attracting the top talent in the world. So like, if I don't get a job in that situation, like I'm not down on myself at all for that. Like you're playing in the big leagues here in Silicon Valley. So like I've gotten very good at handling rejections. Whereas before I probably wouldn't have handled it as well, but now that I've gone through this interview process and just getting essentially rejected left and right, like I'm used to it. It's no big deal now. I understand the situation. So to answer your question, I guess it gets easier with experience. Like any rejection I get now, no matter what company it's from, even if it's a small startup, I'm just like, whatever. There's 1,000 other companies here. So I guess I just got used to it. To answer your question, CR2290 says, "Hi Sean from Chile. What's up, man?" Thomas, "I like the overall vibe of your channel, but I love to see some more medium skill topics. Eager to see the video on threading." Yes, actually, that is one of the next topics I want to talk to, so that's a good segue, Thomas. I'm going to get to that. So let me do kind of like a channel and mentoring update. So I offered mentoring to people, and I got a lot of responses from last week's live stream. I want to be very clear, and I'm sorry if I misled anybody, but it is a paid service, so it takes up a lot of my time. I've taken on 5 students, and it's a 1-hour session with each of those students. I do 30 minutes to an hour worth of prep work before the session, and then the 1-hour session, and then I'm communicating with them, via Twitter or email throughout the week. So it is a lot of my time, and so yes, it is a paid session. I do my typical hourly rate. We can talk about that if you're interested, but I just wanted to clear up that it is a paid service. It's not just a free mentorship, and I don't want to sound like I'm greedy or looking for money. If I was just mentoring one person, yeah, I probably would do that for free, but because it's 5 students and it's taking up a ton of my time, it's just too much free time to give away. But anyway, the reason I brought that up is because I can't remember, Thomas said he was looking for the concurrency and threading video that I'm going to do. That if you're in the Patreon community, which if you're not, you can go there. That's where we kind of vote on what video I'm going to do for the next week. I give like weekly updates on like what I'm doing. It's just a good community to be part of. Check it out, Sean Allen, or patreon.com/Sean Allen. Anyway, last week's video that was voted on was the concurrency and threading. So like basically I'm going to give a how-to for concurrency and threading. But like I said, this week kind of threw me off, and like I just mentioned earlier, I procrastinated all week. The past 4 or 5 days, I've done nothing but this contract. I got myself in a bind. So anyway, I usually do the 1 patron video of the week. It's going to get delayed until next week because the concurrency and threading is, I got to put some time into that. It's not just something I can sit down in the camera and like do. I gotta build that one. That's more of a larger tutorial. So long story short, you're going to get 2 patron videos of the week next week. So what won the voting last week was how I stay motivated when coding all day. And then what won the previous week was concurrency and threading. So those are coming up. And then on the broader topic of more advanced topics, I brought this up, somebody mentioned it to me on Twitter, is I am going to eventually evolve the channel into more intermediate topics once I've built the library of basic topics. As you guys can imagine, the people looking for basic topics, the audience is a lot bigger, people just starting out coding. And then as you get more advanced, the audience shrinks, right? So if I did some crazy super advanced thing, the audience for that would be very, very small. So where I'm going with that is, like I said, I'm going to start off very basic, build that library, and then eventually evolve up into more advanced. That way I have a whole library of videos that beginners can consume. And then as the channel grows, like I said, I've only been doing this for 3.5 months. So yeah, I'll get there into more intermediate courses. So anyway, mentorship update. I did just have my first student knock out all 3 of his sessions. So I sell the sessions in packages of 3. And yes, Misha, sorry to interrupt myself, but I can't wait for Game of Thrones tonight. It's crazy that we had to wait an extra 2 months. Normally it's in April. Anyway, thanks for the distraction. Yeah, so the mentorship's going great. He knocked out his 3 sessions in a week. He's got his app. He just put it to test flight 2 days ago, and now it's being beta tested to his audience that he had. So I'm having a blast doing these mentorship with you guys. It's fun to get to know you guys on a personal level, and to be quite honest, like I have to learn a lot too when I do the mentoring sessions, because usually they'll give me a list of what they want to talk about. And it's interesting because, you know, when you have to teach something, you have to know it cold to be able to teach it. And then there's a lot of stuff in programming, like it's impossible to know everything cold no matter what. So I got to do a lot of research before these sessions to kind of get a refresher, because some of the, you know, questions I haven't like dealt with in a while. So, all right, let me catch up on some questions here. All right, Yoel says, we'd love to have a more in-depth arc with closures and all that escaping blocks. Yes, the closures video is coming. That's on the list because I really want to finish up my iOS interview question series. And I have like 3 topics left, I think. I have 4 topics. One is concurrency and threading, which is coming this week. Closures, which you mentioned. Debugging, which is coming. And then networking. So those 4 topics are going to finish out my iOS interview question series. Oh, and error handling. That's coming this week too. But yeah, I definitely want to just get that series buttoned up. So anything to do with that will be coming soon. Sean Cotton, good to see you again. Says, hey Sean, do you have a main go-to source for helping in projects where you get stuck on an issue? Just in general, Stack Overflow. I know that's the generic answer that you probably already know, but for the most part, excuse me, Stack Overflow will handle pretty much all the general questions. If you have a super specific question, a lot of times I just dive into the documentation, the Apple documentation, try and figure it out myself, or try to find a blog post that's specific to that. There's no like one specific blog I go to, but yeah. All right, Alan says, super, thanks so much. Coming from a UX background into code, so I think more for me. Olaf, thanks. Syed says, I come from an Objective-C background and was too reluctant to start up with Swift, but your videos made the transition super easy for me. Way to go. Thanks a lot. Thanks, Syed. I'm kind of the opposite. Like, I started in Objective-C, so my boot camp was taught in Objective-C, so that's kind of what I learned on. But as soon as I graduated from the boot camp, I was Swift 100%. And now when I look at Objective-C, that's daunting and it looks crazy to me. So I know how you feel, but I'm glad you made the switch, and I'm glad I'm helping you out. All right, Jill Sandwich says, I'm not even getting rejections. They just don't call me. How often are you applying? Are you on LinkedIn? Have you tried a site called hired.com? So a lot of times I'm not proactively like applying to places. I kind of just sit back and wait, and this is the lazy way to do it. But recruiters are hitting me up all the time. Like I mentioned, I think it was in my last live stream. I think once I hit the 1-year mark on my LinkedIn of experience, I started getting incoming recruiter emails all the time. So any of my job leads are usually responding to incoming recruiter calls, or I'll just go on hire.com, which is you basically sign up, get a profile. If you get approved, basically they come to you. So just between LinkedIn and Hired, any job interviews I get, they're just incoming. That's how Facebook happened. I actually have one coming up with PayPal tomorrow. That's how that happened. So yeah, just get an online presence, kind of what I talked about last week, and they'll come to you. Reed says, hey Sean, what's up, Reed? iFills or Alan says, hey Sean, awesome video on Cocoa Pods. I just came back from vacations, and one of the first things is watching your videos. You're the best. Thanks, man. Appreciate it. You've been a supporter since it's like day 1. iFills was like literally subscriber number, single-digit subscriber. I don't know what number, obviously, but he was definitely one of the first. He's been around since the beginning. And onto the Game of Thrones stuff. Yeah, can't wait. The bad thing about Game of Thrones is like you can't binge it. You know, it's just once a week. You gotta wait a week to watch it. I just want to watch like every single episode. Dimitro, hi. I want to sell those intermediate course or posts on YouTube for free. They'll be on YouTube. Yeah. I've been thinking about, like, people have asked, you know, hey, you should do a Udemy course, or you should sell some courses. I'm not against that idea. It's just I don't have the time to put that all together. Like putting together a course like that, or like if you watch Let's Build That App, you know, he's got that Instagram course, which took him like 200 something hours to like build before you guys could consume that. So at this moment, I don't have the time for that, to put that together, because I'm trying to build this YouTube channel, pumping out videos all the time, got my contracting work. Now that I'm doing coaching on the side, coaching is starting to take a lot of my time. There's just not enough hours in the day to do that. But maybe eventually, you know, if stuff clears up, I'll get to that. But for right now, when I do intermediate videos, they will just be on YouTube for free. Eugene says, hello, I really like your channel. Thanks for the amazing work. Appreciate the kind words, Eugene. I cannot pronounce that, but hi. All right, Mr. 2K 1993 says, will this be posted on the channel later? Yes, all the live streams get posted on the channel. It uploads basically right when it ends. Rahul says, how do you manage app development and making YouTube resources concurrently? It's tough. I have, like, aside from basketball is my social life, essentially. Like, so I basically work, YouTube, basketball. That's basically my life right now. And it is kind of getting a little bit draining. I do have to figure out, like I mentioned, time management, especially since I've added like coaching in on that, YouTube coaching, or not YouTube coaching, but iOS coaching. So yeah, my hours in the day are running out. I'm gonna have to figure something out, but it's tough. It's a lot of work. That's why a lot of people think YouTube is easy and like, oh yeah, you're a YouTube star. It's got to be an easy life, but I put in so many hours into this channel. Like it's a full-time job in and of itself. Junior iOS Android developer job, remote possible? Yes, but it's tough. I think the people are more willing to take on a remote worker once they have a body of work that is proven that they've done it, whether that's a good resume. Getting your first job as a remote worker, it would be pretty tough. Now, don't get me wrong, every situation is different. Nothing's absolute. I'm sure it's possible, but it's definitely probably the more difficult way to go. Alan says, yes, it totally is. That's what I'm doing right now. Go to startup meetups. You'll find loads of people who need developers for MVPs. Yes, networking. Get out there. Meetups are a good place. Or a co-working space. So like I said, I joined WeWork, which is global. It's all around the globe. And there's people all the time. They have like an app that has like a social media feed on it. It's like Instagram, like just for WeWork people. And there's people constantly like looking for designers, developers. You just got to put yourself out there. Van Dunn says, what do you think was the biggest roadblock for your start to this channel? Honestly, it's been smooth sailing. Like it's only 3.5 months old, pushing 2,500 subscribers. Getting a lot of great feedback. You guys are awesome. Getting a lot of good comments. Like I've had pretty much 0 haters, and you hear all the horror stories about YouTube comments. I mean, there's been a couple people that have like challenged my code or challenged the reason about doing something, but I want that. I welcome that. Like I want to have a discussion on what is the best way to do stuff. So no haters so far. So it's been smooth sailing, you know, knock on wood. I've been very lucky. So there really wasn't a roadblock. Like the equipment I used, so I had to buy a camera. It was like $600. So I guess the only roadblock, I'm a full-time iOS developer, so you know, money wasn't an issue to buy a camera. So I had to buy a camera, some cheap lights. I'm looking at my equipment right now. You know, a cheap tripod, Final Cut Pro, which is like $300. So I would say like $1,000 to get started with all the equipment that I had to buy. And you probably don't even have to do that, but that's just what I did. So yeah, there really wasn't a roadblock. It's been smooth sailing, so I'm having fun with it. Yola says, can't wait to see Caspi playing next to Curry. Yeah, a lot of shooters in Golden State now. Tanvir says, I'm good at data structures in Java, but not with Swift. Would this be a problem when I'm applying to iOS developer positions? I don't have a great answer for you. What I'm thinking is that so data structures are just data structures no matter what language you're in, right? You're talking arrays, dictionaries, hash tables, you know, stacks, queues. That's kind of like language agnostic. That doesn't really matter what language. So you're just trying to look at how to convert your Java data structure code to Swift. There's a good GitHub repo. If you do cracking the coding interview in Swift, there'll be a good GitHub repo that solves all the cracking the coding interview questions in Swift. And a lot of that is about data structures and algorithms. So you can kind of look at how the Swift code is, compare your Java code to the Swift code, and maybe you can kind of like translate it there. That would be what I do. A lot of questions today. I like it. All right. So I'm sorry if I butcher your guys' names. I'm sorry. Sangamesh says, hi, Sean. Thanks for helping. I want web services, JSON parsing, detailed video. Yes, JSON parsing, especially now. I'm kind of waiting on the JSON parsing because, as you guys know in Swift 4, well, you may know, may not know, in Swift 4, there's a new codable protocol that really handles JSON parsing well. So I'm kind of waiting to play with that a little more because it just came out. So I got to play with it more and kind of get good at it before I can kind of do a tutorial on it. So yes, JSON parsing is big. That's huge as part of networking. That will be coming soon. And then web services, yeah, that's networking as well, I'm assuming. All right, Von Don says, what is the single most important thing, according to you, to get attention as an iOS developer? Do you mean like an online presence, like kind of like what I talked about last week? it depends on how much work you want to put into it. I'll give a brief synopsis over what I talked about last week. So the bare minimum, in my opinion, is LinkedIn and Twitter. You should be active on Twitter in the iOS community. Start following a bunch of iOS developers. The iOS developer community is very active on Twitter. Get involved in the conversation. LinkedIn, that's bare minimum. Next step up is having a personal website and a personal blog. Start putting out blog posts. Even if you're not an expert, just do it for your learning and people will find it. And even if you're not trying to build an audience, if an interviewer tries to look at you and they see your personal website and starts looking at your blog post, it just displays your knowledge. So that's like tier 2. And then tier 3 is going like completely crazy and doing a YouTube channel, starting a podcast about iOS development, starting a newsletter. But that, again, like I mentioned, this YouTube channel, it's like another full-time job. So that's like if you want to go crazy with it. But those are some ways to get attention as an iOS developer. All right, Tanver says, mainly used Swift only for iOS development, never used for data structures and algorithms. Will this be a problem in the interview? Loving your video is really helpful. Thank you. I'm going to flat out say yeah. Because a lot of my final interviews, I crushed the iOS part of it. When I say the final interviews, this is like the on-site, 4-hour interviews. So I would crush the iOS part of it. And then when it came to be whiteboarding, the basic CS knowledge, the data structures and algorithms, which, this book is supposed to help you with, that's where I did poorly, poorly to average. Not I didn't bomb it, but, I didn't do great on it. And obviously I didn't get those jobs. So yeah, I'm going to say it is important. Definitely study that. Practice on a whiteboard, literally, or on pen and paper. Practice writing it out. Don't just type it, because it's a completely different animal, right? You can't copy and paste things. You can't all out delete and start over. It's writing on a whiteboard is a whole nother world when compared to actually coding on your computer. So Mr. 2K 1993 says, do you think it's beneficial to give up on web development and go into app development? Random, but do you know any ways to connect to international people who would fly you out to work? So I'm just going to give my honest opinion. So you're talking about people willing to fly you here or wherever you're at, to here to work. People are willing to do that. You just got to be you have to be worth it, right? They're not going to just fly out, spend all that money to relocate somebody here to the United States or to Silicon Valley, right? They have to really, really want you. So yes, it's possible, but you got to be a superstar. So yeah, be a superstar. And then yes, obviously I'm biased. I don't know web development. I'm an app developer, so obviously I'm going to say app development. But take that with a heavily biased opinion. Dimitro says, can you tell me your opinion? I work on my first job for 4 months. This is a startup. He's the only mobile developer, so sometimes it's very difficult to find the right way to build an app. Yep, I was in the same position in my first job. What do you think is okay to work in this, or is it better to start looking for a job where I can work with other iOS developers? So that's a great question because I was in that exact situation. Let me kind of paraphrase the question. So he's at a startup where he's the only iOS developer. He's still kind of learning, it sounds like. Is this best for him versus going to a company where there's other iOS developers where he can kind of learn from? In the first situation, that's how my first startup was. So it was 2 iOS developers and we were both junior. So, a lot of the blind leading the blind. Don't get me wrong, it was good because I had to figure things out for myself. I learned a lot. I built an app from scratch to launch. However, I probably made a lot of mistakes. The code base, I'm sure, is not great because I didn't know what I was doing. So I wish I would have gone to a company where there was a huge team of iOS developers that I could have learned from. So there's your answer, really. I'm not saying it's all bad to do what you're doing because I did benefit from it. However, I wish I would have had a team of iOS developers. So if it's not too much to try to find that, I would recommend that. Yola says, do you consider yourself more as mentor or developer? Definitely developer. This YouTube/coaching stuff is just kind of like a side gig. Maybe one day, 3-4 years down the road, if the channel blows up, I might switch to it full time. That's kind of the goal, what I'm looking for. But here's my opinion on that. I've been a developer for 2 years, so by no means do I consider myself an expert. I wouldn't want to be a YouTube iOS expert only after doing it for 2 years, right? That makes no sense. So I wouldn't want to make that switch to full-time until I've been doing it, 6, 7, 8 years. So if I do make that switch, it'll be a few years down the road. But for right now, still a developer full-time. I still have a lot to learn myself. So that's what we're doing. Vondon says, JSON parsing is like magic in Swift 4. Yep, I can't wait to play with it more. I've done it a little bit just to test it out, but I haven't actually like built a project using it, so I'm looking forward to that. And when that happens, I'll do a tutorial. Rahul says, ReactNative is affecting native development in India. Everybody's preferring React for mobile development. Yeah, that's, I don't know if you saw my live stream 2 or 3 of them ago. If you don't, go back, and it's called ReactNative versus Swift. There's some good conversation in the comments too about that. It's not, maybe internationally in India, but that's not the case here in Silicon Valley. So I can only speak for my market. But if your market is becoming very important, you know, where you live, then yeah, it probably is a good idea to learn that. But here in Silicon Valley, it's, don't get me wrong, I'm not saying it's nothing. It's definitely there, it's definitely viable, but the vast majority of the companies here are looking for native developers. Tanvir says, cracking the coding interview in Swift with that GitHub repo is good enough to get through those interviews easily. Yeah, I mean, if you can answer every single question, there's like 140 questions in here. Yeah, if you can answer all those in Swift on a whiteboard, then yeah, you'll have a breeze in those interviews. That is a lot easier said than done. But yeah, if you get that book and you can do all those questions, again, there's like 150 of them, then yes, you'll have a pretty easy time in interviews. But that's like saying memorize an encyclopedia. Olaf says, is it possible to become an iOS dev at, let's say, 40 years old? Have you ever seen very old people, about 40 years old, starting their career in the iOS app industry? So, Olaf, I am 35, almost 36. I became an iOS developer at 33, so not quite 40, but yeah, obviously I did it at a similar age, not exactly, but yeah, I mean, don't get me wrong, you will work with people younger than you. Obviously, like a lot of the developers I work with are in their mid to late 20s. So me being 33, 34, 35, working with people in their late 20s, it's not a huge difference. But yeah, it's absolutely possible. I kind of did it, I guess. I wasn't quite 40, but kind of did it. Tom Beer says, you should make a Udemy course for iOS development. Yeah, I kind of talked about that earlier. It's just time consuming to create a full course, and there's just not enough hours in the day for that right now. Maybe in the future. Kirti says, which book are you referring to for coding? It's this. Last time I knocked the basketball off. It's this cracking the coding interview. You can see all my little tabs. But it's, yeah, I mean, it's a huge textbook. It'll teach you all about data structures and algorithms and how to solve it in code in Java. So like I said, it's in Java, but there is a GitHub repo that converts it all to Swift. Again, just Google cracking the coding interview in Swift and you'll find the GitHub repo to kind of help out with that. But I'm not going to act like that's an easy read and an easy thing to do. It's going to take you months of studying it and learning it. It's hard to do, but if you do it, you'll be good to go. Tom Beer says, some good resources for iOS development besides your channel. And where do I get a really cool app assets for free? Really cool app assets for free. I mean, that's yeah, it's hard to do, right? If you have really cool app assets, you're going to sell them. They're not going to give them away for free. So anything out there for free is probably not, really cool and unique. So that's probably hard to do. And then other iOS development resources, I say it all the time, is raywonderlick.com. I love that site. Check it out. Sanjay says, are you using anything else to brush up data structures for interviews besides cracking the coding interview? There's a YouTube channel, so Harvard CS50, so it's like the Harvard Intro to Computer Science class. A lot of that is on YouTube. So if you do Google Harvard CS50, queues or stacks or hash tables, whatever, merge sort, they'll have good videos on that. So I watch those videos, and then the lady that wrote this book actually has a YouTube channel too called Hacker Rank, where she actually talks about walking through all the data structures and algorithms. So yeah, that's really what I did. I used that book, those YouTube channels, and other random YouTube channels. I would just search YouTube for it and other random channels too. So that's what I used. Yeah, Yoel says, a great tutorial I couldn't find anywhere is how to read Apple Docs. So that is an acquired skill that I agree that took me. I probably didn't start getting used to it until over a year into my career. Is if you run into a problem, going into the Apple Docs, figuring out how to navigate them, how to read them, what you're looking for. So yeah, so maybe that's a good idea. Maybe I'll do a video on that because yeah, once I learned it, once I started doing it, it's super valuable. But it took me a while to come around to. All right, I usually cut these live streams short at about a half hour or so. So see how many questions I have left. Okay, only got a few questions left. So finish up these questions, and then I'll probably take off. So if you have any last minute questions, go ahead and get them in. Try to keep them short though. Let's go ahead and get caught up. Do you think Medium, blogging Medium, is a good idea to get attention as a developer? Sure, yeah. I know a lot of people that build an audience on Medium. Yeah, like I kind of mentioned, anything you can do to get your name out there, whether it's Twitter, Medium, yeah. And Medium saves you having to build your own website and stuff. So yeah, I'd say it's a good idea. Mitro says, thank you for answering. The pros to work alone, that you learn a lot, you know, yeah, you learn a lot with API, the camera, locations, cons that you sometimes do it the wrong way and it takes more time. That's exactly it. You nailed it. Mr. 2K1993 says, is it balanced in Silicon Valley or is it saturated with developers and no jobs? No, it's interesting because they say there's a shortage of developers. They're always looking for developers. Like there's plenty of jobs and there's plenty of developers. The key difference is there's plenty of like junior developers. Whereas when you get to the, 4 or 5 years experience in iOS, been doing it, quality developers, that is what there's a shortage of. There's no shortage of people like me, to be honest with you. Like, hey, I did a boot camp. I have 1 to 2 years experience. I'm getting a little bit past that group. I'm kind of graduating out of that group now, but I was in that group. Yeah, there's plenty of those type, but the companies aren't really looking for those type. They're looking for the 3 to 5 year experience, been doing it for a while type. So that's kind of the dynamic here in Silicon Valley at the moment. Richard says, HackerRank, where is that? Just YouTube, HackerRank YouTube channel, you'll find it. And like I said, she goes through all the data structures and algorithms. So the first part of those videos, the first like 5 minutes of the video, she'll be explaining what the data structure is. And that's good value. And then like the second half of the video, she'll code it up in Java, which as a Swift developer was hard for me to follow. I mean, I did pick up a little Java just from kind of watching them, but I would say the most of the value you're gonna get out of those videos is in that first 5-minute chunk where she's actually explaining how the data structure works and what it is. Rahul says, don't stop doing videos whether you start as full-time. It's very useful for thousands of people. Thank you, Rahul. Yeah, I don't plan on stopping. Like I mentioned before, I've been doing about 5 videos a week. When I get full-time, that'll probably drop down to 3 videos a week, which is still, a good amount. But yeah, so don't get used to this 5 videos a week thing. And that's what I say in my channel banner at the top, 3 videos a week. That's all I'm promising. I'm just over-delivering right now. But yeah, that won't be less than 3 videos a week. Reed says, thanks, Sean. I'll catch you next week. Thanks, guys. Thanks for showing up. Let me see. Okay. Ben Sullivan says, Ben, just so people, scrolled up. Just so people know, become full-time iOS dev without learning algorithms. Also sign up for mastering tables. Yes, Ben does have a Udemy course. Check it out. And yeah, data structures and algorithms, they're one of those things you might need to know at a larger company just for the interview process, but typically day-to-day development, you don't use them. It's really kind of a thing to get past the interview for the most part. You may end up using them every once in a while, but for the most part, yeah. Thank you. Have a nice day. By the way, I like the lamp and bought one for myself. Awesome, Dimitro. Thanks. And thanks, Richard. Thanks. All right, guys. Thanks for showing up. Appreciate it. We'll see you guys next week.